Chairwoman Cheryl. Dr. Goodman, there's been a lot of talk about systematic review and how it stands to improve the IRS program. Can you explain the systematic review in layman's terms and describe why its implementation is critical to improving IRS?
Yeah, so the idea behind a systematic review is that there is a clearly formulated question, and based on that question, a protocol is developed for every aspect of the review, including the literature search strategy, what studies you're going to include and exclude, what information you're going to take from those studies, importantly, how you evaluate the quality of those studies, their strengths and limitations, and then how you integrate evidence from all these studies, especially when there's contradicting evidence, what you're going to do. And the reason why it's so critical is so that you truly get a sense of the whole state of the science. When a review is conducted that's not systematic, what ends up happening is critical information is ignored, and then your conclusions aren't really based on a good, solid scientific foundation.
Thank you. And again, Dr. Goodman, over the years, there's been a lot of uncertainty surrounding formaldehyde and specific criticisms of the IRS's program's handling of the formaldehyde assessment. Last week, EPA announced that it will review formaldehyde in the TSCA program, which is an actual regulatory program that can set useful guidelines for the formaldehyde use. I think this is a tremendously positive step toward making meaningful determinations as to the risk associated with formaldehyde, and I applaud the administration for taking this step. Can you, Dr. Goodman, again, can you please explain the potential downside of relying on an IRS assessment of formaldehyde to dictate how we regulate that substance at the federal level?
Well, I think as it stands, the IRS handbook hasn't been completed yet, so there's no standard operating procedure for conducting IRS assessments. And so even though the assessments are moving in the direction of using systematic review, systematic review hasn't been fully implemented in any review to date, including what's been done on formaldehyde to date. So in that sense, I think what's most important is that formaldehyde is reviewed in a systematic fashion. And I think the other aspect was talked about with the first panel. IRS provides toxicity values, and these toxicity values take into account the hazard information, but they don't take the next step in saying what are our uses, how are people using it, and what are the risks for those particular uses, and that is done under TSCA.
Okay. I'd like to thank each one of the witnesses for taking your time again. There's been a lot of controversy over IRS, and we just want results, and thank you for taking the time. Chairwoman, I have no further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Norman. I now recognize